Yes, I like.
Our families in. Everybody have a good time so far? Get a drink. Big shout out to Bureau. It's the first time I actually had a Bureau. They're really good. So I want to thank you for that. So we're going to get into the panel. Just before I do, just maybe a bit of a reason why we're here tonight. So Specno, those of you who've been following the journey, we've been working with startups in the beginning, and over the years we've learned so much working with startups. And since our last founders, then quite a few corporate partners have started reaching out and saying, hey, can we maybe utilize that which you've learned in the startup space and come and work with us? And as we went on this journey with 2 or 3 corporates, what we realized is that, not only can we help them actually build these kind of solutions, but there's a massive opportunity for startups and corporates to actually work together and do even cooler things. And corporates make a lot of money in this country. And there's some extras that I believe can flow into great partnerships with startups. And that's why we're facilitating this conversation tonight. So we've got a few people working in corporate in the room. We've got a few startup founders. So yeah, after the sessions tonight, grab another drink and be networking. And if there's anything Specno can do to help you guys on the journey, then just chat to any of the Specno people around in the room. Right, so we're going to get into it. I've got an amazing panel tonight, and I'm just going to invite you one by one. Peter Ann, she's a startup founder from WardWorks, and we'll hear a bit more about her. Thanks, Peter, and you can take a seat. Come on, let's give her a warm welcome. And then all the way from Pietermaritzburg, we've got Zamo from AgriCool. Zamo, come on up. And then we've got Christian from JobJack. Christian, welcome. And then finally, Jermaine is not a corporate. He's actually the investor from Next176. And they work closely with Old Mutual. And we're going to chat a bit about some of the things they're doing and what they've learned on the journey. Welcome, everyone. So normally we only have 4 people in total on the panel, so I'm sitting in this funny chair tonight. If I roll off, Jermaine, please just go ahead and you can just go on with your questions and just take over. Right, awesome, cool. Maybe we can start this side, Peter, and maybe in a sentence or two you can just tell us about what WardWorks is and how the journey is going so far.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter Ann. I am a general practitioner. I still work, so there's that. I founded WardWorks after my community service year, and in a nutshell, it is a productivity tool that helps my colleagues in the state hospitals to keep track of a list of patients and to collaborate securely with their team. It was built out of a need. I had that problem when I was a ComServe, when I was an intern, and I went in with blind naivety into this world. Now I'm a startup founder. Specno built WardWorks, so there's that as well. It's very cool for me to be here. I think if you told me in med school that I'd be talking at a tech startup buzzwordy event, I wouldn't have believed you. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And I love the story. I mean, if I know it well, if I'm correct, doctors would use WhatsApp or other channels to keep track of how they pass over information on shifts, and that wasn't very effective, right?
So that's happening every time. So doctors love paper, so we had pieces of paper that would float around the ward, and it would have a list of patients on it, and patients would literally get missed. Ward lists would get lost, and so when I was a medical student in final year, I decided to make myself a diary, like a book that I was going to use on my ward rounds, and always been a bit of a problem solver, entrepreneur, so spread the word out, and a few friends took interest, and I decided, well, let me try sell this book. So that book's called The Internship Organizer, and so I first sold that, and that was fun, but the problem wasn't fully solved. So I noticed that my peers were starting to use Trello, WhatsApp, Google Sheets. They were hungry for the solution, and I had myself in a moment of, if not me, then who, and if not now, then when. And so I used my industry knowledge and partnered with Specno and made an app that's being used by 10,000 doctors around South Africa.
I've heard many people build MVPs on Google Sheets, forms. You're the first one I've heard build it using a book. That's like proper hustle. So Zamo and I go back way a long time. He was part of an incubation program I was running. He's pivoted quite a few times, and this guy is probably one of the most resilient founders I've ever building a startup in Pietermaritzburg, right? And, the people in Pietermaritzburg know what startups are?
Sorry, we're probably the only startup in Pietermaritzburg.
So tell us a bit about AgriCool, like what do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. AgriCool is an agri-value chain enabler. So what we do, we connect farmers with market access opportunities. We also help coordinate logistics and payments between our business retail partners and with the farmers. So we work with the likes of ShopRite, Boxer, and other small fresh produce stores.
Awesome. So literally putting food on the table.
Sure, 100%.
Love that. And then Christian, you guys, JobJack, you obviously work on a topic that's very close to a lot of people's hearts in South Africa, and that's employment. So maybe tell us a bit about that, what JobJack does.
Cool, thanks, Anil. So JobJack in essence automates the entry-level recruitment process. So think of a job seeker that might not have a qualification above matric or an excess of years of work experience. Currently, it's costing them around 950 Rand a month to look for work, right? Whether it be printing a paper CV, dropping it off, public transport. And so obviously they don't have that money to begin with. And so what we've done is we've created a web app that helps them get access to, one, creating an online profile, which acts as a CV, and two, then to actually get connected to relevant opportunities. And so really creating accessibility for them, but then obviously on the paying corporate side of things, you need to get the jobs. And so we've automated that process for them as well. So instead of them having to look through a box of 1,000 CVs or an email inbox full of 2,000, they are only going to see or only going to have to look at the top 10 or top 20 that have been deemed as relevant. So you can think of LinkedIn meets Tinder for blue collar, but it's really amazing to see the opportunities that it's created. Today we've placed probably over 20,000 people into opportunities. We have just over 2.5 million registered job seekers and about 5,000 to 7,000 signing up every day, which is amazing, quite sad in and of itself, right? And so our aim is really to get each corporate and employer, entry-level employer for that matter, using our platform to really enable the right job seekers to get to the right opportunities.
That's awesome. And I believe the other day you guys crossed 1,000 placements around for the first time.
We did again. So we did last year for the first time, and so we are now continuously doing that and really aiming at least doubling what we've done in the past just in this year alone. We officially hit, I think, servicing just over 5,000 employer sites across South Africa, including some of your bigger corporate names, which is part of this topic. I'm assuming that's why I'm here. Yes, and so it's been a really cool journey so far.
Awesome. Well, 1,000 families that have food on the table. Well done to them. So, and then finally, Tremaine, tell us a bit about Next 176.
Cool, thanks. Next 176 is a hybrid between a venture studio, so we build startups from 0 to 1, as well as a VC investor. Our LP is Old Mutual, so we're very, very close to the big green corporate, while trying to still come to work in Jordans and black jeans. And what we try to do is we try to merge the two worlds between profit and doing good. So we have this massive audacious goal that the products that we invest in and or build will impact 1 billion lives. And if you stack that up, most of the startups founders around in the room would say, that's a crazy market. But the interesting thing is we try to invest and build products that have reach and impact. So one of our products is an online digital will platform with life insurance embedded into that. We know that if we give somebody a will, their children's future is secure. So we invest in products that impact multi sort of numbers of individuals. And that's how we're going to get to our 1 billion via these sorts of products. We try to focus on a few verticals linked to our big, scary, audacious goal. We look at sustainability, we look at jobs ecosystem and the future of work. We look at responsible debt, not just debt, responsible debt and protecting my income as an individual, and health tech. And we really feel that these verticals are the ones that will really drive the change, not only in South Africa, but across the African continent. Spending a lot of time in SA now, but with a mandate across the continent, and we're dabbling a little bit in those territories now. But really just an investor, a builder, corporate partnering arm of Old Mutual that really wants to invest and do things that make impact, because we think we can do profit and impact at the same time.
Awesome, love that. Peter, and I want to bring it back to you. You built this startup, and then obviously, one of the first questions that comes to mind is, how do we make money from this? And in your case, you had a partnership early on with a corporate, and if we speak about partnership, a corporate being a customer of a startup is also a partnership. There's deal benefit. The startup benefits getting some money, and obviously the corporate through what their objective was. Took us through that first initial phase. I mean, you're still young. You're new with a startup. You've got a piece of tech, and how do you go about getting a corporate to go, let's take a chance on the startup?
So my journey was quite organic in the sense that we bootstrapped WardWorks, but I didn't know I was bootstrapping WardWorks. Like, I learned how to access corporate funding before I had a tech solution, in the sense that when I was making the book, The Internship Organizer, I initially had single sales, and I would sell it to an intern, and that was just super labor intensive. So it came from like absolute frustration, and I realized like I'd rather spend my time to try and get one big customer. And so there's this need for corporates to try and win over the trust of doctors quite early in their careers when they graduate. And I saw an opportunity there, because when we graduate, they like literally vulture us with pens and scrubs and lunches, and and I was like, well, maybe I could make the internship organizer a corporate gift. And so I put feelers out through interns, and I was like, who's recently vultured you? Give me their numbers. And I phoned around, and I managed to, I landed a nice proper deal with Discovery in 2018. And that was literally it was necessity. I was a busy intern. I couldn't do single sales. I needed to figure out a way to make it work. And so, I remember going to my first Discovery meeting. I literally didn't know if I must shake their hands or not when I first walked in the room. I phoned someone to ask, when I walk in, is it weird if I shake their hands or not? Because I didn't know. It was awesome, and I pitched it up. I just said, this is the book that's going to solve all the problems for the interns, and you want your name on it. And so I did that for 2 years. I got corporate branding on the book, and so then when I started to realize that there needed to be an app for this, like my colleagues were using Trello, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that if I spoke to Discovery and other brands, I'm pretty sure that they would do the same for the book, for the app. So I was like, cool. So I managed to sell advertising on an app that didn't exist yet, because of a 2-year track record of having the internship organizer. And very proud of that. And we bootstrapped and built WardWorks in 11 months during COVID, using that money. And now looking back, after meeting a whole lot of founders, after rubbing shoulders with people who are in this room, I realized that my case was unique in that most people have an idea, have a problem, and then they go out and speak to somebody, and then they say, you need an angel investor, or you need a VC, or that's then you get sort of drowned in that journey of getting everything ready so that you can impress a VC, and you don't get to focus on the product problem that you actually were so passionate about. And so looking back, I was really lucky. I fell into it. And what was the question again?
Just a journey video. I think you answered it well. First customer.
Yeah, so I think the first customer it came from a track record. So we all read about lean, and we all read about starting small and starting with something that doesn't scale and just trying something out. And that's exactly what happened to me by accident, is that I had this book and it was solving the problem, and they trusted me that I was going to make an app. It was sort of like, I'm going to make this app and either you're coming along for the journey or you're not. And because I had the 2 years of doing the book, it was that track record. So if I could give advice for your first corporate client, is to start solving the problem. Go solve the problem. Figure out a way that you can do it maybe without the tech that you're planning to build. Make a lean version of the problem, the solution, fix it, show that it's working, and then get them to come along for the journey. And I know all the books say that, lean, start lean, but it really did work.
I love that. And I mean, if you were to go back in time, would you start with the book again?
The doctors love paper. They still love the book. I still sell the book. The book is still a thing. Like the book still gets distributed to the doctors. So
Is it because of the ugly handwriting and the
I do not know, and I think so. I now consult for clinical UX, and doctors love paper is something I say in every single meeting. Doctors love paper. Once I figured out why we love paper so much, I'll come back and let you know because it's great.
That's fascinating. Christian, I want to come over to you. Like, not a lot of people know this, but you guys started out as a gig economy platform, which is probably respectfully 10 years before its time. I don't know if the time is right yet for a gig economy platform, maybe sometime soon. How did you go from there to convincing a corporate to jump in and go, okay, cool, let's try your platform and see if you can recruit some people for it?
I was anticipating this question. So the first job we actually had was how JobJack started was my mother-in-law knew that it was part of my heart to really see how people can get connected to opportunities in an easier manner. What I studied and what I went to go do as a profession, accounting. It was pretty easy getting an article job, probably slave labor. But I realized there's a massive need, and so yes, the first job was promotional staff at an event, and payment came through me, and afterwards, more and more of their friends started asking me, do I have more of these opportunities? Unless you belong to some elite WhatsApp group or Facebook group back then, you didn't know of these opportunities, and so dove in and really started, facilitating that to the point I was the app in the beginning. It ran through WhatsApp through me, just to see, is there traction? Is there something that can happen in this? And built our MVP in that, and really started diving into the market that we knew best at that time, which was startup master students. And during that, we got a lot of requests from the job seekers for more permanent jobs. And we, in our head, like, surely the corporates had figured out a streamlined manner in finding their thousands of recruits, right? Come on. And just by God's grace, we got this meeting with Pep. I was one of my interns I was third year and he was first year. And he came to me one day, he's like, Christian, my dad really likes what you guys are doing. Okay, cool, thanks, Keith. It's great.
My dad,
yeah. And I'm like, okay, who's your dad? He's like, oh, he's the director of sales at Pep. I'm like, thank you. Let's go for a meeting. And I mean, we got there, and by that time we'd seen a lot of the need out there. And obviously before, and we quickly went to go, ask, try to fish out what are these corporates doing. And at Pep's meeting as well, we sold the dream in what is it that they're currently doing, and kind of true to it, they were using boxes of paper CDs to really find their next candidates that are supposed to be representing their brand, driving their sales in each store across South Africa, all 2,300 stores. And by then, I think that time we had like 6,000 signed up job seekers, with like 10 a day signing up. And we sold them the dream. We told them, if we can get to a place where we are creating this network benefit of more job seekers, enabling them to get access to more of your opportunities, it's going to result in more corporates coming on board, more jobs equals more job seekers, more job seekers equals more jobs. And they understood that network benefit, and I think also just Grace didn't force us. I mean, they asked the question, they threatened with it, and why can't we build this ourselves? And
you corporates do it?
No, never. So at that point it was an easy answer, because we said, well, you can't possibly employ everyone in South Africa. Never mind, the world. Our vision is employ the world. So that's really where we want to go, at least to be a part of that. And so it was an easy answer to say, well, do what you do best, sell low margin, household items to those that need it most, and we'll sort out this problem for you so that we can enable you to do the best that you guys can do. And we took on a pilot, 18 months. COVID stopped that as well, thanks COVID. And the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. I mean, you kind of made a joke to corporates do that, but I mean, the reality of the situation is, if they can build something, why would they not build something? But I love, I just want to press on that. I mean, you highlighted, you told them, cool, you've got a bigger vision and a bigger plan, but I mean, there's obviously also, the focus and the ruthless execution around making sure something is really working well. What was the pain, or how did you frame it for them to get interested? Was it really simple in terms of there's a box of papers, no one likes going through it, like we're digitizing it, or was there something other than was the angle? Did you have to come up with a ROI or a cost saving benefit, or how did you guys go about that?
So we still are going about that. We're finding a free solution that is paper CDs, right? And so with them and with each new client that we have on board on a daily basis, we have to educate them and show them that the indirect costs of, yes, one, the admin behind it, and two, also the speed at which they are finding or not finding the people, right? That's costing them sales or money on a daily basis. But thirdly, and this was and still is the biggest value add, is if we can enable them to get a better fit, not just a duct tape solution of someone that's going to leave in 3 or 6 months. You're starting to add value, not just to that person, breaking generational poverty, but you also actually, adding so much value to the business because, kind of research indicates that it costs these businesses anywhere between 3 to 6 months of a person's salary each time they have to replace them, right? Just in training costs and getting them on board. And it's the reputation of the business. So we were able to, I don't know how we did it then, sell this dream of we are able to connect you to the right person. And in between, we've built our own psychometrics, folks at this specific market. But in essence, that was really kind of, I think, the lever that got it, is they understood that there's so much indirect value in this. We sell to all our clients, and we believe it internally as well, is a quote by Zig Ziglar, which says, you don't build a business, you build the people, and the people build the business. And so that's true even at grassroots level. And I think that's kind of a sway.
That's great. So, Jermaine, you work closely with Old Mutual, obviously a massive corporate. Do corporates want to work with Slow?
Some do. It's an interesting story, and so I landed at Next 76, and one of the first things I said when they brought me on is I said, don't give me any Old Mutual people in my team. That was a mistake to a degree. There's
So it didn't mean Old Mutual people, it just mean those kind of people.
Yeah, like corporate. Yeah. We've been very fortunate to find some amazing people in him, and we're very lucky about that.
You saved them out of corporate.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
So,
joking.
no. So the truth is, there are corporates that want to work with startups, and we're seeing this in a variety of spaces. MTN, Vodacom are doing like amazing work. Old Mutual through Next 176 is we're young and nascent. We're on the path. Momentum has a really strong space as well. But underneath that and underpinning it, divisions in corporates want to find ways to make their lives easier. So that's really one of our core jobs, is to figure out like, how do we bring other startups into our corporate, but also for us, how do we go find the startups that are playing in our corporate without us, and then go and invest in them? That's one of our other interesting little parts. I think the comment around all corporates might decide that they want to build this. I mean, I think if we had a beer afterwards, there's probably 10,000 ideas where they did try and build it and failed. And I think corporates are waking up, specifically in Southeast Asia. There's been a massive rise of the CDC, the corporate VC, and they're starting to wake up to say, let's go back to what we're great at, but let's become super friendly to startups because they can expedite our growth vectors, whether it's in our individual divisions or because we'll be investing on the outside of our core. I think all of corporates are starting to think now, the growth is going to start slowing down, right? You can't be hitting double-digit growth year on year. Shareholders are screaming. So what is that thing slightly left of core that you can invest in that might be the next big thing, or really drive efficiencies in your business as well? And we're seeing that in pockets everywhere. I think it's not easy, but historically, it's probably the easiest now to partner with a corporate than it's ever been. And hopefully, it becomes easier and easier as time goes on.
And I think corporates sometimes get a bad rap for dealing with startups, but I mean there are some realities when you're a listed company. I mean, you cannot take on certain levels of risk. I mean, that could negatively affect the share price and everybody could lose their jobs. So, I mean, how can corporates engage in a way, or what have you seen, or maybe what is the thinking behind the structure of Next 176 to kind of, because I suspect it's got something to do with some of these things. So maybe share a bit about the thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I think, we were born, the name is born out of Old Mutual deciding they turned 176 years old and then decided, how do we, that's not a startup, right? But
That's post-scale.
yeah, it's post-scale. Series B.
Series Z.
But really ask themselves a hard question and say, how do we survive for another 176 years? And it's a really critical question a lot of businesses need to ask themselves, even on shorter time frames. And that's where Next 176 was born. We were born out of this desire to, how do we play in the corporate and be this bridge between this burgeoning, growing, interesting startup world without impacting the core deliverables, to your point, share price, protection around, one of the biggest pension funds in the territory on the continent. How do we stay away from those pieces, but still increase value on the outside? And that's why we were born, to build things that can come into the corporate, invest in things that can come in and might grow in their own individual vectors. And then we've got a team specifically designed to create partnerships between not only our portfolio and Old Mutual, but also inter-portfolio. So it's a really interesting way of going about saying, let's set up our startup infrastructure layer the right way.
I love that. So speaking about risks, Zaman, I want to come to you now. You work with small-scale farmers in Pietermaritzburg. I've seen some photos that you've shared of hail that's bigger than my head that fall in Pietermaritzburg, and crops get destroyed, and things happen. How do you manage risk in engaging? You mentioned you work with ShopRite, and obviously, ShopRite and these big corporates have processes, structures. They have commitments to people who buy from their stores. Like, what have you learned in managing that risk?
Yeah, sure, 100%. As everyone might know, like farming is a high-risk business. A lot of people, not unless you're a buyer or you are as privileged as myself, who's a co-founder at Agrico, a lot of people don't know how food get from the farm to the shelf. Like, we take it for granted when you just pick up these nice looking tomatoes and stuff like that. Until you work with farmers, you see there's a lot of sweating that goes into that. So how it's a risk that's there. There's very little we could do with hail, and it's God's will, so we can't change it. So, but how we try to mitigate that risk is, firstly, the buyers know about it. ShopRite knows that's going to be a challenge. So what we do, we work in the Midlands area, like it's your Great Town, Singa, and many others. So at least there is, we de-risk our model by scaling geographically, because like a hail, it's a very concentrated event. So it's you could find like it's a hectare of land, but it only affects like a quarter of a hectare. So at least we are able to, because of floods and stuff, so we're able to mitigate that risk. So sometimes buyers do get angry because they spend most of their time at the offices and looking at the numbers, thinking about procurement and stuff like that. So there's times where we have like floods and hell, like a buyer sometimes saying, where is my papers? I want it now. I'm gonna lose my job, because they have to do some KPIs and stuff like that. Sometimes there's times where I remember it was in November 2 years ago, I had to take like a video. I drove to a farm and I took a video, and I was walking through the field, just check, see, there was a hay here, I don't have it. So you could see. And I do understand it's under pressure, like I said. I mean, in as much as there's impact helping smallholder farmers, at the end of the day, if you are the end consumer wanting to buy produce, you don't really care. You don't even know how it goes into, you don't understand what goes into farming and processes and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, they're very understanding that this is a risk that exists. And sometimes they get to know before us. Like when you woke up in the morning, you check, hey guys, I hear there was hail in Pietermaritzburg. Are you guys fine? Like, yo, let me just call my, hey guys, are you fine? And get you. So they get to hear before us that there was like an extreme weather event. And then we check it, so they know, they do understand.
All right, so you're a startup that startup farms everywhere. I love that. Peter, and I want to come to you in terms of the golden. Let me just ask a question. What is your golden rule for maintaining healthy win-win partnerships in a startup and a corporate? Like, I mean, there's obviously expectations on both sides. As in any good relationship, there's often a misunderstanding of those things or miscommunication. Like, what are some of the things you've learned to make sure that those relationships are healthy?
Yeah, it's a good word, relationships. I want to encourage everyone or reassure everyone that a corporate is a group of individuals. It's a group of people who have people above them that they need to report to. It's a group of people who have certain goals that they need to tick off by the end of the year in order to get their kudos inside their companies. And so you're creating a relationship with that person. And it really does, in the end, it literally feels like a relationship with a person. You take a few steps back and you realize you're talking to the chief medical officer of discovery, and then you have to tell yourself that it's just a person. And I think I've learned over and over again that it's a relationship. We had a bug in the app in the sense that we were tracking clicks and views on our ads, but for at least 6 months, we were not tracking iOS users. So our numbers were sort of plateauing, the doctors weren't clicking the ads, and then it turned out that it was all the Android ones that we were only tracking, and that actually, that's what they're paying us for, is ads to doctors. And after an initial absolute panic, and I sit down, I listened to my gut, and I said, I'm just going to tell them what happened. And every single corporate person understood. They know they're working with a startup. They know we have a lean team. They know we don't have all the budget and checks, and softwares can change and iOS can change, and then the integration doesn't work anymore. And they understood. The discussion was not awkward or scary at all. It was like, yeah, well, we're working with you, you're a startup. I mean, so what do you think the numbers were? Like, we just need to tell the people above us, what do you think the numbers were? And that was what the conversation was like. And I was so scared. I thought I was going to not tell them. I was like, we're just going to fluff the numbers, and we're just going to tell them, oh, look, we found all this tracking that we had been missing. And I'm so glad that I treated it like a relationship. All relationships, you need honesty. So from the beginning, hey, I'm a startup. It's not going to be smooth sailing. Sometimes things are going to go wrong, but it's a little bit of risk for a potential massive gain, and they all saw that.
And I love that because, I'm sure a lot of people who work in corporate in the room would attest that stuff like that happens in corporate as well. But we have these ideas about these brands that they run perfectly, and everything on the inside is perfect. But we're all human after all, so beautiful story. Christian, so partnerships can be tricky. What should startups be mindful when they're dancing with the big guys? Like any common missteps, perhaps, if you feel comfortable, share some of the mistakes you guys made along the way and what you've learned from them.
A lot of mistakes. So I think the thing that comes to mind immediately of a pitfall when dealing with corporates is dancing to your tune and not to theirs. You know what you need to do, and most corporates, and it's not because they are wanting to bully you, but it's just they've got their mandate and they want to push their mandate, and they are used to a certain way of things being done. And so what we've learned time and time again, and we've had to say no to some business because it's going to distract us from reaching where we need to reach. Our vision is employ the world, not employ a region of South Africa that is most valuable to McDonald's. And we're not going to get there if we're going to be dancing to every tune that corporate X, Y, and Z throws at us. So something that we very much fell into from a bit is agreeing to every meeting that a corporate wants to have yesterday. For some of the corporates that we dealt with, we even started charging per hour. That cuts their meeting times really short and makes it pretty effective, which helps a lot. And in all honesty, to say no to some deadlines, to say no to some feature goals, and time again. In fact, I can think of maybe one scenario where a corporate thing said, okay, we'll chat to you guys later. We still haven't chatted again. But that's okay because we wouldn't have been servicing all 4,500 other stores or sites if we'd have gone with that. So, and for the rest, when we said no, they respected it, and they and we are better off for
it. Tremaine, when corporates look at startups, what are the things that are red flags, and what makes them not respond after the first meeting with a startup?
Why corporate? So I think this leads to a couple of the comments here. If you want to be successful with a corporate, and this is why they will not respond to you, you need to understand two very core things. One, the person you're talking to is the KPI conversation. What actually is their KPI? And what are they actually trying? And I'm not talking about like, oh, we want to solve this problem. It's no. What is in your OKR or your KPI where it says, so we're dealing with an internal group in Old Mutual now with one of the startups we built. Same conversation. He has to ingest 2 alternative data sources by June. That's what we'll help you with. Because
and that's how he's going to get a raise or a bonus.
Correct. So we will help you get a bonus. Tick. Okay. Second thing is, yeah, it's a bonus. And then the startup gets no bonus. But anyway. The second thing and why they will stop calling you back is if you don't understand, specifically big corporates, their governance structures. To Christian's point, you do have to say no sometimes. But sometimes you also have to understand that there are 3 people above this person who have to make the call. Ask that early. The first question you should ask, are you the decision maker? Or tell me who else we need to convince. Those are like, honestly, if you can do those 2 things and be hyper clear on them throughout your interactions, they will keep coming back. If you can't do those things and it feels like you're not moving that individual's own desires to get a 5 out of 5 KPI score, they're not going to care because the other KPI says increase sales by 4%, down 3.9, they're not going to take a risk on you for the 0.1%. Those are the 2, like, I mean, they don't feel great, right? The 2, because it's like, oh, we're a startup, we don't like hierarchy, you know, so that sucks. And you can't make the call, but I'm here and I can make the call right now. And like, come on, we're not really tracking KPIs here. So it feels weird, but truthfully, those are the things I've seen successfully work, even in our own venture studio, with our own parent, and with startups we talk to all the time.
And I think, I love that, Jermaine, and I think, you know, as founders, you know, you need to make the decision whether or not you want to play that game, right? Because that game has certain rules.
100%. And
you can be upset about it, you can complain, it doesn't matter, like, it's always going to work that way.
But you have to know what the rules are of the game you're playing.
Yes.
Sure, just to add on that, Venya, especially on the KPIs and dealing with the corporates, obviously one thing I've seen that I always tell my guys when we're meeting with our retail partners is that 99% of the time we ask questions, we only talk 1% of the time. You know, like when you start up, because I get to sit in front of you guys and share my experience, I think people like listening to me. And then you don't usually treat like a corporate as a customer, like as an individual, as a person. So you end up saying a lot. Like for me, I even know in each retailer, what's the incentive, what's the KPI, and how is it structured? Is it the volumes? And it's like, when can I help them? Like I even ask them, so for you, what's important? Like tell me as a senior buyer, and how can I help you better? So I've seen that way. If you go to corporates and yeah, so I understand this is what you do, this number of people, no, just relax. Just chill and ask them questions, make them feel special, let it be about them, just understand them as a customer exactly what's important to them.
I love that. And, you know, I've also come to learn that, you know, corporates, there's a reason why they make the amount of revenue and profit they do, right? Because they've designed these systems over years that work. So that OKR, that KPI, it works. It gets someone to pull in a specific direction that strategically helps the business. So I want to encourage all the founders, stop fighting the system, learn the game, go play it well, and you know, partner with corporates and help them. So, Peter, and how do you create urgency with corporates? Because sometimes decisions can take a long time. You know, there's waiting time between things, and you know, startup on the side is burning cash, and you're kind of like, can we get this thing going? Like, what have you done in the past or what strategies or techniques have you employed to get some more urgency.
Yeah, I mean, it's very real. It's a very real problem. You're so used to making decisions quickly, deving quickly, advertising quickly, like Instagram posts can be made in a second, whereas in corporates it's like 3 cycles of approval and external digital agencies, and it's a nightmare. So you add side services for the individual who is forming a relationship with you. So can I help you make a pitch deck? Can I give you stats with graphs and pretty pictures so that you can pitch this? Let me help you draft the content for the next Instagram post. You know, you just start things that aren't necessarily what they're paying you for. You know that it'll take you and your team so quick to do that. So you sort of let them tap into one of the biggest selling points of working with a startup is things happen quickly. And it's not just, yo, you guys should work with us because we make things happen quickly. Like, show them. Like, we can have this by tomorrow. We can have this pitch deck for you to show your boss tomorrow. And yeah, something else I could say is don't just follow up with a little follow-up email. Phone them. Phone them. They've probably forgotten about the thing that you're waiting for them to, get feedback on. Phone them. They are your friend. They're your internal champion within that company.
Yeah, sure. Just to add on that, for us, I think more than that, like on the side projects, like, so that's what you've done, especially with our big customer ShopRite. We've built stickiness. But one thing we realize is as we're supplying them, we really struggle with logistics, especially maintaining the cold chain. So at some point I had this idea, like every time I always see these ShopRite trucks on the N3 up and down, but I'm sure when they go down to the DC, ShopRite DC, they're empty. And I went to them and said, hey guys, in our meeting, I've got an idea. We're struggling with logistics and especially getting like more often than not, the truck that we're using, it breaks down and the refrigeration unit isn't working, and then we put our gas to you guys, it gets rejected. And that affects both of us and the farm as well. Would you guys be interested if we had to do like something called backhauling? You guys do your deliveries, and when you're done, you go to one of our farms, you pick up the stock, and it goes straight to your DC. You don't have to call me and ask me how far is the truck and stuff like that. You just go into your system and you see where it is, and then you make it simple for us. That has helped us a lot because, firstly, they did a pilot with us. And like 6 months down the line, they send emails to everyone saying, hey, we've just got this thing that we've tried with this company. So if you want to, you are one of our supplier, you need help with the truck 24/7, and we're going to give you like, we can give it to you. Which it comes at a discounted price for us, especially it increased the utilization of the truck, the use of, and also, we get it 30 to 40% discounted price to what originally we got it from others. So that has also helped us again because it builds stickiness. When the buyer gives me orders, he knows I'm using a truck that takes 22 pallets. So you can't give me 10 pallets order. An order of 10, I'm gonna say, so I got your orders, but it doesn't look viable. So can you increase the orders? Shall see. Okay, sorry, if it's less than 15 pallets, I'm not bringing the stock. Then okay, it's fine, make it 15 pallets. You have to bring that stickiness and build that relationship because, we just think spinach, broccoli, it's just the same thing. If you go to a retailer, it's the same broccolis and collards. Beyond that, just to separate yourself from other suppliers, what can you do so that like a retailer or like your customer, you build that stickiness that they can't do without? Like, I hope they're not cheap, but I know very well that they can't do without us.
I think if they are here, they know anyway, so we find them. I love that. And it's really about like in the early, as early as possible, try and find a way that makes you add enough value and irreplaceable really. And not always easy, but that's a nice hustle story. I love how you pull that off. Speaking about hustle stories, Christian, I'm going to share one of your growth strategies. And I didn't tell you I'm going to do it, but if you see Christian on LinkedIn, he's taking a selfie in front of a massive retailer or a massive company's logo, and then they go, hey, welcome on board, company XYZ. And sometimes it was just a pilot project, and it was, it's the truth, welcome on board on the pilot project. But that created FOMO with other clients, right? And they're like, oh, Jesus, McDonald's is doing it, we steers, we need to do it as well, and that obviously worked well. And I love that story. But in the early days, like how do you, I mean, when people aren't inbounding you, how do you go out and find a corporate? You had Pep early on. If you didn't go out and find a customer, like you could maybe find a company, but how do you find the right person to speak to? Our sound guy is sick, so we have Marlon standing. Just apologies for the sound. It's Marlon's second time. So.
Almost feels like the truth bomb is about to drop. To his earlier point, yes, I do take shameless selfies with a selfie stick in the mall. It's pretty embarrassing, but it works. It works. The FOMO is a real thing. We have clients that we speak to, ones that don't want to meet with us, or after the meeting, they're like, okay. And then 2 months later, they see the selfie and you follow up and they're like, yo, we saw you guys sign up there, let's meet. And then when there's through a full meeting, then it's a no-brainer for them. So yes, and it's free. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to do, except some pride. But to get to the corporates, and I think Tremaine touched on it, is understand the structure. So, and for the first 4 or 5 years, I've been driving sales, me, myself, and I, and it means connecting with each person in the value chain of that corporate on LinkedIn, through mail, on WhatsApp, calls, super important. And you're going to meet with each and every one of them probably, and they're going to refer you to the next person, But someone in that value chain snaps the problem, and they're going to be your champion, and they're going to drive it internally somewhere. So that's happened so many times where we've really tried our best to get to this CEO or the head of HR, but all they see is just another mail that it's probably blocked through some gatekeeper. So to get to the head of data, you just speak the data language. To get to someone that's sitting at a store, you phone 5 of the store managers and tell them, hey, just mention this to your boss next time. And so in a month you call them again, okay, there's some some truth to this. So now it's a little easier, yes, because we've got this list of corporates that really helps drive that FOMO. But in the beginning, it really was just knocking on every door relentlessly until you get someone that is willing to gift you just an hour of the time. And that was part of our strategy. Literally after mail 8, listen, if you give me 1 hour, half an hour, and you don't like what I've said, I'll leave you alone forever. But I'm not going to stop until you do. And usually they do.
But I think also it's another interesting thing you raised now. I think by touching everyone in the value chain, you're actually alleviating a massive gap, right? Because you've pitched X. Now X is going to go pitch Y. Y's already heard of you now because you've also emailed them. So now the 4 people sitting around the boardroom table, 3 of them are going, oh yeah, that guy, emailed me. Oh, I actually understand it. It's a much easier yes when it's not a cold pitch by someone who doesn't have the same passion you have about the problem you're solving, right? And I think that's quite interesting about corporates too, is if you can not just understand the hierarchy, but understand who's in the value chain and get them to say yes before the meeting, that's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, it's a tiring one, but it definitely is. Just because each person cares about the people around them, and obviously the solution we bring really speaks to that. So find what's important of your product to any specific person in the value chain, and be relentless.
So I love that, Christian, but I actually want to make it a bit practical. So you connect with them on LinkedIn, you send them a message, you phone them. What are the kind of stuff you say to them? You ask for a meeting, you tell them what you do, how do you go about it?
Yeah, so I've different templates for kind of different roles and people, and usually, obviously, if you're working through LinkedIn, you connect and email. People don't read the in-message that you get on LinkedIn Sales Nav. People never read that. You need to connect them and send that little note. And it's a short, and we have that time 50,000 people, and we service PEP and a few others, whatever you kind of just. And anyone that speaks to their industry, just that, do you have 30 minutes? Something that worked a lot with, especially with higher kind of CEOs is to ask for advice, and then to honestly go and ask for advice. And in that, they really agreed to kind of, okay, but maybe you should actually speak to our head of HR. But then, so it's LinkedIn with the in-message, then it's emailing them. You can guess anyone's email through like Rocket Reach, which kind of just their template. Apollo, yeah. It's really, really, and it's free. And so you email them, and then if you can somehow get their number through that, then you try and give them a call, and you give their office a call, and if you phone someone's corporate office, if you can't find their phone number, their cell phone number, and you can ask for someone by name, they usually say no through. And like, they don't ask for a reason. If you can give a name and a surname and do it with confidence, not like, can you, can I please speak to Yanni Piet van der Merwe?
It's me again. I'm just phoning again. I want to speak to Jamal.
He said I should call around this time. So with each person, all 3 or 4 of those channels every time.
Love it.
Yeah, so this reminds me of a story of how we onboarded Freshmark. Yeah, so what happened, I went straight, I first went to, I didn't really understand how ShoreBite works. I didn't know that it was ShoreBite as a retailer, and then they also had Freshmark as a company that deals with the fresh produce. This other day I was just bored, it was a downtime, business wasn't doing so well. Took the car.
Startup life.
Yes. Yeah, I went straight to Berlin where there's a Freshmark DC. Firstly, I went on LinkedIn and I saw there was a guy there who was working at Freshmark. I said, okay, I know this guy's name, Avesh, just gonna go to Freshmark and ask them. I didn't say I had a meeting with them. So when I got there, I came across the security guy. Said, sorry, what are you here for? I'm like, yeah, I'm just here to see this guy who's a buyer for a short ride. So this guy said, Ish, sorry, must I call him? Then he tried to do a phone call, but at that time, that was when we had the unrest in KZN. So Freshmark had been looted, so the telecom system wasn't working. I said, okay, it's fine, it's not working, you can go through. Then I went through, then there was another security again. I said, so okay, how can I help? I said, I'm here to meet with Mr. Nadi. He's a buyer here, and I have a meeting with him. I didn't know the guy, I just saw him on LinkedIn, and on his profile, he said he works for Freshmark, he's a buyer there. So when I got there, this guy said, okay, cool. That guy, I don't know that guy. Are you sure at the right place? Yes, I'm 100% sure. Then I showed him on LinkedIn, this is the guy, like he works there. Oh, okay. Okay, I need to call the reception upstairs, but at the buyer's office, but the telecom is not working again, so that you can go up. Then I went up. So when I got to a lady there at reception, so how are you? I'm looking for this guy. Oh, sorry. He left a long time ago, 2 years ago. You no longer aware, like, oh, this guy didn't update his profile. But I was already there. I said, oh, okay, so tell me, who's the senior buyer here? I said, senior buyer. Okay, what do you want? I said, I work with farmers and I want us to help those farmers to supply fresh market. But I'm not sure if that's going to work because we already have our own farmers. So one thing I've learned, and I always say this in sales, I'm very passionate about sales. I like selling things. I mean, never take no from someone who can't say yes. That's not even disrespect like that. That receptionist, he couldn't say yes to give you to this and so I didn't take his no. I said, hey, no, I'm like, okay, cool. But can you give me the lady's number? I said, I can't give you a direct number, but I can give you a landline. I said, cool, I'm happy with that. And what's the lady's name? Then she gave me the name. I took the name. I went downstairs. I said, oh, thank you. Then I had to thank the security. As I was coming out, I saw a gentleman who was smoking a cigarette. I said, I went to a gentleman. I said, I'm looking for, I already knew the lady's name. You can imagine from Pietermaritzburg to the DC, it's like 100 kilometers. I was already here. I had to try and get something. Said, yeah, but what do you want? I said, we work with farmers. I said, no, we have our own farmers. I said, okay, cool, but at least can you give me her number? I said, I can't give you numbers, but I can give you my numbers, and then I'll speak to her and ask for a permission. Okay, cool, that's fine. So one thing I do, I took this guy's number. For me, when I'm doing a sale, I'm selling to a buyer. On WhatsApp, I know like it's difficult for people to say no. Even myself, I find it difficult to say no. I wait until you're online. Like if I want to send you a message, so that I wait, I look at your WhatsApp, I keep on glancing and say, by the time you're online, that's when I send the message. So that if you decide to ignore me, at least I see, and I see I'm not online. And I can sometimes I suppose, okay, I see you're still busy, but I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Just to show you that I see that you are ignoring me. So, and this guy, for like a week, I was very persistent, like every second day, checking up with him. And I think he just got angry because I was so persistent. Okay, but call him busy, call her, just don't tell her that you got the numbers for me. Then I called the lady and said, hey, she was so pleasant. Like, like key decision makers, I'm not that bad. It's usually the people that you have to go through them to get to them. She was very pleasant. Oh, what do you do? And she didn't ask me where did I get her numbers. She said, oh, what do you do? And I said, okay, cool, it's fine. Okay, just give me your email address. In a week's time, I got an email with, there was a gentleman from Cape Town, and I'm going to be meeting that guy tomorrow. So then he said, okay, there's this group of guys, this is what they say they're doing, and currently we are struggling to source spinach, so maybe they might be able to help. When you come to David, please go and see them. This was a key decision maker from the head office here in Cape Town. And that guy responded, oh, okay, it's fine. Can you send me your cell phone number? Within like a couple of minutes, then he called. Then we created that relationship. So the problem now was, I lied and said we've got like a fully fledged pack house and stuff like that. So this guy, Arnold said, I'm coming next week. So I want to see your pack house. Like, yo, here's another problem. Now farmers, I work with smaller guys. So then I remembered at some point I spoke to some other guy. He said there was like a pack house that was built by government that is not used. I was like, maybe we could use that pack house. I took my friends, I took my co-founder, Palisa, we went to the pack house. And night before, we cleaned the pack house. We cleaned it, so it has never been used. It's had for like years.
Was there spinach growing in the pack?
No. The spinach was at the farm, but so we cleaned the pack house. We spent about 40,000 rand buying those stainless steel so that it looks like, we had to stage now so that it looks like. We even took fresh milk crates so that it looks like, we even bought lettuce and spread it down so it looks like we were working. When we got into the pack house, I remember I was the first one to come in and I was kicking the lettuce like, this guy didn't even clean it. And it's like, oh, okay, is this where you guys work? This guy saw the oh, fresh milk crates. Oh, you guys are ready then? Yes, we are ready. We knew we had the supply, but we knew we didn't have like what they needed with the compliance and all those things and stuff like that. Then when we were done, this guy, so you guys are already supplying boxer? I said, yes. They said, okay, cool. The last part of this stage now, we'll go to one of the boxer stores, and there was a boxer store nearby. I want you guys to show me your product that you supply to boxer. Okay, we hadn't been supplying boxer for a couple of weeks, so I knew there wasn't our product there. But he went in, and I wrote the cake. I said, I can't point on tomatoes because I don't have tomatoes. But if I point the spinach, at least if you say, bring my spinach tomorrow, then I can press it. This is our spinach. It wasn't ours. Then from there, we sent us the papers, we signed, and we had a dog.
There's some things that I wouldn't recommend.
Definitely, this off record, I wouldn't recommend it myself.
We love streaming, by the way.
No, luckily now we are compliant.
Bring it home, Mom.
Maybe you just give me some ideas. Maybe I need to tell this guy tomorrow, I know tomorrow what happened, because I still doesn't know the story. I don't know how it's going to
We got
react
some
to it.
advice on honesty. I'm going to put that to use. So I've got one more question for Jermaine, and then we can open it to the floor for some questions. Jermaine, there's this notion in startup world, and it's not only tech startups. It's you see on Twitter someone goes, "Hey, Wilbert stole my idea," and sometimes they legitimately do. But other times, people go for a meeting and they pitch something, and Woolworths has been sourcing something like that for a long time. Or in the case of Old Mutual, they've got a lot of different things they're working on. What advice would you give founders? Because on one hand, have to show your goods, right, for them to get excited about it. But on the other hand, there's some risk, and sometimes they're not malicious. They're working on a lot of different things at the same time, and maybe Christian goes and pitches his idea, and they like 99% done with something solid. Like what did you say, Peter?
Yeah, this is a tough one because one of my triggers is if a startup says, "Listen, I'm raising some funds. Will you sign this NDA?" And I'm like, "But we have a studio. We're also building. I've got Old Mutual. I don't even know what they're doing. So I'm going to sign this thing and say this is the first time I'm hearing this." There are no new unique ideas. There's just unique combinations now, right? But that's really where we're at globally. And the truth is, as a founder, you have to put yourself out there. And there are going to be stories about thefts of IP ideas. We've seen them before. But listen, man, social media is a super powerful channel to rectify some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you must go after corporates on social media, but I just think we're in a world now with so much information that you are more protected.
Yeah.
I think you've got to back yourself as well to execute better than the startup, the corporate. That's really what you've got to go. You've got to sit there, show your ways, and say, you know what? Your structures, your governance, your risk profiles, your shareholders are not going to facilitate the speed at which I can execute this, or the flexibility in which I can pivot from customer A to customer B, or from channel A to channel B. You have to back that. And I think that is just the truth. I worked in Chinese tech for 8 years, 9 years. Theoretically well known for, sort of not well known, incorrectly known for theft of IP. But there were so many people thinking about every single problem in that country. It's impossible. They're not stealing the IP. Someone else just thought about it and executed it, right? And it's the same thing, just on a smaller scale here. Just back your idea, back your flair, back your team, and back your ability to execute fast. You have to put yourself out there because, truthfully, we're going through a follow-on investment now with one of our investees, and they've signed a massive corporate on as a distribution channel. And when we sat in front of the IC, I said, this is the holy grail. A startup coming asking for money, and they've already signed distribution with a massive corporate. It can be the entire thing that makes or breaks your business, or expedites you from 4 or 5 years of pain, bootstrapping, pivoting to the big leagues quickly. So you have to take those opportunities. You have to rush to the cold storage. You've got to meet and handshake, and you've got to go to PEP and get it done when you're early on. It's like super important lesson.
Yeah, and I love what Christian, what you said earlier. A lot of people would just fall over and go, oh, they don't want to buy our stuff. But when they said, we can build this ourselves, that's almost when you have to push back and be even more persistent, right? You have to go, no, but I can do it better.
Yeah, and we've done exactly that. And also we've said, and it's a little cocky, but we said, okay, chat to you in 3 months. And honestly, time and time again, we do. But they go back, they look at, no, we can build this ourselves. And we say, good luck. We are best in this, in the world. South Africa, but that's our world at the moment. And go figure it out, please. And we encourage them to go figure it out because we know that they can't do it. They can't do it better than we can.
Well, not at the pace, not at the precision, not at the level of focus.
Sure, or anywhere. But yes, to Joanne's point, we've because we've had to kind of lay it all out on the cards for a lot of these for all of the corporates every time and it's not an original idea, it's quite a simplistic idea. But at the end of the day, we need to back that we can do it better, and we're quite confident in that, and we've seen time and time again how that pays off in how they perceive us, and how they then come back to us and agree to take on a partner.
I love that. Right, so we're going to open it up for questions. Anybody on the floor? We'll take about 3 questions when we go out to breakout rooms. I love it when there's early questions. The first question is always the tricky one. Go for it.
Okay, my voice.
Our sound guy, Marlon. Thank you, Marlon.
Sure, Colin. And thanks to the panel for the great discussion. Tawanim here, communications coach. I want to ask a question, maybe particularly to you, Christian, around the product you're selling is somewhat intangible, right? you can't necessarily say, look, this is what it looks like. Here it is, touch it, feel it, lick it, smell it. You can't necessarily put, a tangibility to it. You need to map certain metrics to it, right? And you all spoke about needing to sell a dream at some point. I'm wondering how you particularly navigate that gray area between this is the service that we're providing, it speaks to people, probably more of a long-term return on investment because you hire someone now and, if they stay on, what are some of the metrics that you put against that outside of the fit, and how do you make those tangible? And also, how do you track those with the corporates that you work with?
Yeah, great question. So our toughest part is getting a meeting because it's intangible, because it's not something that's even in the frame of reference for what companies think is a problem that they currently have, right? Paper CVs has been existing for the past, how many 100 years, or when paper was invented. And so, but what we realized at a point, and kind of just a practical approach that we used to really change the tangibility of what we were selling. So for a long time, we were thinking we want to keep it Job Jack brand. Everything was just Job Jack. So if Woo is going to use us, Job Jack, like our green and navy. And at a time, we were thinking like they're not wanting to buy into this. These corporates are so worried about their own reputation and brand. And we, like internally, my co-founder and I really believe you can change the world if you don't mind who takes credit. And so you're like, oh, let's give them something tangible. Let's give them something that feels like they are owning this, they are solving this problem. And so we just took our platform, and for client facing, we just white labeled it for that client. It's still the same backend, it's still the same technology, but now you can approach them with, hey, do you want to buy the software? The software is something that's going to automate your entire recruitment process. And then in that, because that's obviously just a small part of it, right? That cool, like a system's a system. But in let's say an hour meeting, we spend 40 minutes of that diving into their current process, not because we want to figure it out, most of it's all the same across the board, but for them to realize how ridiculously redundant their current process is and how much it's costing them. Because by the end of that 40 minutes, they need to be realizing, oh my word, we cannot go on another day not utilizing this. And in the same breath, they're not just getting, they're not just paying for a good return, they're paying for something that they can actually feel like it's their own, because now it's Woolies branded, or now it's, and so that's part of another growth fact, right? So with the 5,000 to 7,000 job seekers that sign up on a daily basis, we have zero marketing spend because each of our clients market for us. If you go to KFC or McDonald's or Woolies or Pep, their posters usually at the till or outside saying scan this QR code. It's branded for them, so it's a branded Woolies or branded KFC. Each job seeker that's signed on there gets added to the larger JobJack database because they can't hire everyone. So everyone that they're going to sign up that they maybe can't hire, another business is going to benefit from them, and vice versa. So that's really how we started taking on we're selling a solution. I mean, any product, physical or software or just intellectually, is solving a problem. And so the emphasis is actually solving the problem and getting them to understand the problem, because the form in which that solution then comes is irrelevant.
At the back.
Hi, Dene from Finto here. We use games to teach people about money, and we are really trying to figure out what the business case to corporates is. And we've also heard, figure out the person's KPIs. And I wonder how you approach that conversation of actually asking them, is it an outright question? Is it a 5 whys or a mom test? What is the strategy asking that question to really understand their KPIs and how in the long term your product is actually going to affect their bottom line enough for them to care about it?
I think really I found in engaging, actually just asking the question. Literally just ask, how do I make you look better? How do I take what I have and amplify your positioning in the business, your KPIs? Just tell me, because I think, we spoke a little bit about doing ancillary things. I think the startups have a great ability to do that and really showcase innovators in corporate. So it becomes a really interesting thing. I think in your world, you have to figure out how to blend something that we don't like to do is you're obviously doing this for impact, right? So gamification on financial literacy is a really important subsector of financial literacy. But if you wanted that into a financial institution, they really want their customers to be more financially literate for one core reason. They want to sell more product. So you actually have to blend your world and your messaging and your positioning around that to the corporates. Because the person you're speaking to is going, I'd like to sell 3,000 more retirement annuities next year or next month. And you go, this is how we do it.
I love that. That's great advice. Warren?
Yeah, thanks very much. It's Warren, previously co-founder of Money for Jam and currently founder of 6.50. I'm interested in your view, Christian, especially because I think micro jobbing was very similar to what you're offering. And one of the biggest challenges we had was trying to satisfy the needs of the 2.5 million people that you've got looking for jobs when there's only like 0.8% available. So are you looking at other ways to monetize your base over and above just the corporates? I mean, a lot of the discussion has been about corporates. But what about your 2.5 million customers? Are you looking to find new ways to keep them engaged and to monetize them?
Yeah, so there's this VC fund that stems from a corporate called Old Mutual called Next176, which invested in us last year. And it's been a great journey so far. So 100%, our heart is really to see these job seekers thrive. Like that's the core of why we do what we do. But there's a lot that can be done. And so we need to choose one focus. And our biggest focus is getting jobs to them. And the best way that we can get jobs to them is to go find more corporates to give us more jobs. And so we've had to say no to so many opportunities that seem so close to what we know is going to impact them. And 100% down the line, that's part of where we want to be. But if you're going to become all things to all men, then you become none to none. And so we've had to really restrain ourselves and just focusing on, and I still can't tell you where that threshold is where we're going to start branching out. That's where we have amazing guidance from some great mentors in, okay, cool, this is maybe a shoe we can start taking. We know now what a person's earning. Ooh, okay, well, let's actually help them save and spend. Okay, cool, we know someone's, now able to take on a new, medical product. We know, with the assessments that we're running currently, like it's a vast amount of data that we're capturing on what that person's inclination is to a certain type of role. And so how can we plug them into training that's going to enable them to thrive in whatever position they're going to move into, or even, start their own venture. So it's in the pipeline, and we've got a backlog of probably 10 years of ideas. But in able to do that effectively, we can't just scoop up what's there now, because every slight distraction is a distraction from what the core is. And the core is going to compound and get us to a place where we can do that in a more effective way.
I love that. Focus even at later stages in the business. So if someone brings an idea to you and says, I can bring more jobs, but give me your better.
Don't bring me more ideas, please. No, please do, please. So very open to it. We'll
but like a different startup, right? Because they can focus on that
yes,
and bring jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do the micro jobbing thing, use your jobbers.
100%. Solve the world's problems.
Okay, and buy me lunch when it works. Free ideas. I mean, you all know. We'll do one more question.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laurie. Sorry, I've been speaking too much. So we've heard a lot about corporates, but there are also startups here, and many of us share a dream, especially because we're in South Africa, of like empowering people. Do you guys have practical tips for startups that have similar ideas on working together, synergies, stuff like that?
I'll just jump in very quickly, and then I'll leave to the startup people. What we try to do is what you're saying now. Like, so in Next176, I don't look after the corporate side actually. I sell into Old Mutual for my startup space. But one of the key things we're trying to build, and Christian touched a little bit on some of the things he's talking about now, is how do we actually get our startups to work together because they might not be doing the same thing. So we have a digital wills product we spoke about. It's like, how can their wills go onto our new freelancer platform as a distribution channel? And both win. How does our investee Kenna Health, how do they play one day down the line when he's not so focused anymore? That's the intangible thing. I think startups forget that you're solving a bunch of problems and creating your own distribution channels and data sources. This is critical because you might have overlap on customers over 70%, and another startup has an extra 30% growth vector for you. We're really good at having coffee and lunches and talking about what we're doing, but not solidifying them and not sharing. I think startups can do a ton more work here.
Yeah, corporates work together all the time. Yeah. So, Dominic, you want to add something?
So in my experience, I think sharing is super important. So that same concept of a corporate stealing your idea, like you need to approach conversations with other startups with the confidence that they may steal your idea, they can go for it, they can try, but like share about the rough things, the things that are going well, and make sure that other startups fully understand where your startup fits in. Because I've met with a lot of founders. I was like obsessive with meeting founders in health tech at one stage. Like I was like every week just meeting with another one. And every single conversation, I was always grateful that I shared more. Because then that person is in a meeting 2 months later and they fully understand where WardWorks sits. They're not at a position now where they can integrate with WardWorks and we can solve health problems as a globe. Like those dreams are cool and we can have coffees about them. I think it's important about the stage where your startup is in. If we know where the other startups are sitting, we can then make those connections. So don't be afraid to share your current biggest problem. Like I think this is actually something that I almost want to challenge in startup spaces is, like we all have imposter syndrome. We all really faking it till we make it, and we're trying to make it sound like our startup is the next big unicorn and we are absolutely crushing it. The conversations we need to start having with each other is like, oh my gosh, this is so difficult. Why do we do this? I'm really struggling. Like, talk about that. Like, break the ice in the room. Like, talk about how I really feel like, should I be at this event? Do you think that your startup should be at this event? Like, those sort of real conversations about like the biggest problem. So that somewhere in their network, when they're thinking, they can like introduce you to someone. Because in a dream world, we could integrate our startups very early on and we could solve the world's problems together. I don't think that that's what you should be going for because, I think it's so important to stick to your niche. So solve your problem and solve your problem super well and say no to a lot of ideas. Oh my goodness, the ideas that would come across our desks with WardWorks. Like, okay, you guys are solving this. Can you just solve like everything else? Don't do that. And yeah, solve your problem well, share your problems in your startup, and be really open with introducing new opportunities for people that you've met. Like, we couldn't nail this, we couldn't get them to sign on, but you should meet this person.
I love it. Come on, let's give thanks to we're not done yet. There will be 2 breakout rooms. As you head out here on the left, you'll see some signs. So we've got one for all the AI people. Any AI people in the room? Anybody interested in AI? So you can head out over to the AI room. And we're going to talk about like how to incorporate AI into startups. If you have any international product, you'll see everybody's bringing AI in. So if you have a product and you want to figure out how to bring out AI in it, why don't you join that chat? And the second one is we're going to dive a bit deeper on the corporate startup partnerships. And if you have very burning questions like how do you get it going, how do you get a corporate customer, be sure to join that. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to just hang around and grab another drink and enjoy the rest of the evening. But I do want to encourage you to head out to the breakout rooms. They're going to be amazing. So thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you around. Oh, we've got some gifts. Marlon, the sound guy. This was actually he's doing. What he's doing right. Right, thank you everyone.